With the proceeds of the sale of his factory, Gesell bought an island in the La Plata River and cultivated the land for his own requirements and personal enjoyment. After the ruinous deflationary policy had expended itself, Gesell returned to business. When he came to his former factory, he discovered that the machines had been utterly neglected. They were rusty and disused. Upon inquiry, he learned that they had not been used since he made the sale. Thus was demonstrated the correctness of those teachings, which none wanted to believe. In the work above mentioned, he writes, "In the meantime, many in Argentina had been taught by experience that the currency laws, intended to lower the price level, were the real cause of the depression, not the strange relations with Chile, which had been popularly considered the cause of the trouble. Therefore, the currency laws for decreasing the general price level were at last revoked, and new laws made in harmony with the proposals I had made in my booklet, La Cuestión Monetaria Argentina. Until this currency reform was made, 2/3 of the whole issue of money bills, 200 out of 300 millions of pesos, were idling in the banks. Nobody in business and trade, in industry and agriculture, could use this money advantageously. One could not even invest it usefully, with or without interest. The banks ceased to pay interest on deposits. But when the policy of depressing price level was given up, the hoarded money quickly returned to circulation. The great ascendancy of Argentina set in with this change of policy, and I had the satisfaction of seeing once again things go exactly as I had predicted. My estimates of revenue, which the conversion office might expect from this economic rise, completely accorded, both in time and volume, with the known and ascertained facts. In 1900, Gesell retired from an active business life. Going to Switzerland, he bought a farm at La House Genevieve. There, for the next 6 years, he devoted himself to the life of a dirt farmer and spent the long winter months pursuing scientific studies. During this period, he published a magazine, Money and Land Reform, but he found hardly a single intelligible response. With the notable exception of Ernst Frankfurt, who later became a pioneer of Gesell's ideas and the author of the clever books Letters from the Silver Stream and Unearned Income. In 1901, Gesell took part in the public discussions on the Swiss national bank laws publishing a booklet, The Monopoly of the Swiss National Bank, thus antedating many of the so-called bank reformers and credit enthusiasts. Gesell, in this booklet, pointed to the dangerous defects of the bank's policies, and his predictions all came true upon the outbreak of the World War. Responding to the need for a summary of his teachings, Gesell in 1906 published The Realization of the Right to the Full Proceeds of Labor by Money and Land Reform. However, Gesell's work in Europe was cut short the same year by the death of his brother in Argentina. He gave up his favorite life and occupation on the land and returned to Buenos Aires to manage his deceased brother's business. 2 years later in Argentina, he published La Plata Monetaria Argentina, and in 1909, together with Frankfurt, who had followed Gesell to South America, Active Currency Policy in German. In 1911 came the new doctrine of money and interest. During that same year, 1911, Gesell returned to Europe and settled at Aden, a single tax colony near Berlin, where he issued a monthly, The Physiocrat, which, when the war broke out, was put under the censor's official ban. Silenced for the time being in Germany, Gesell returned in 1915 to La Haute Genevieve, and there issued the work which, summarizing all his ideas on political economy, was destined to attract worldwide attention and which has run into 7 German editions, 1 English edition, and 1 American edition, now being published. The Natural Economic Order by Free Land and Free Money, more generally known in English as the Natural Economic Order, NEO. The acclaim of this book was instantaneous. Economists, scientists of world fame, industrial leaders, reformers, and labor leaders hailed it as the work of a genius, a brilliant solution of the whole complex of economic problems. It was a message from a man who, though a hard-headed businessman, successful in his labors, and secure in his economic knowledge, was neither reformer nor idle utopist. It places Gesell as the greatest of the Manchester economists, with the ripe experience and reflection of a man of skill, boldness, courage, and understanding. It is significant that this book should have been issued during the great struggle brought on among the nations as a result of their economic ignorance and blunders. It is significant also that this book, coming in the midst of a world tragedy, costing millions of human lives, points out the very foundations, causes, meanings, and purposes of the Great World War itself. Gesell was now in the fullness of his intellectual powers. Behind him lay practical success in business and in financial reforms in Argentina. He was no longer a mere money reformer or a man with a strange new idea. He was a world authority. It was during this great period of his life that he delivered 3 very important lectures. At Bern in 1916, Gold and Peace, part of which has been published in The Way Out in English. At Zurich in 1917, Free Land, the Fundamental Condition of Peace. And in 1919 in Berlin, The Simplification of the State Machinery After the Realization of Democracy. These also appeared in booklet form.